There's a moment in every deep dive into wartime history when you realize just how much knowledge ordinary people once carried. Knowledge that allowed them to survive when supply chains collapsed, stores emptied, and the world felt uncertain. That's why today's guide matters. If you're watching on the Legacy of Survival channel, make sure you subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear is the kind of practical, historically grounded information that doesn't just illuminate the past. It strengthens your preparedness today. These are skills families used during World War II, long before modern tools and conveniences became a safety net. They're clever, efficient, and rooted in generations of hard-earned experience. Let's get into the 9 forgotten World War II farming tricks that kept households fed, even when the system failed. Families relied on makeshift compost systems that turned every scrap into soil power. During the war, chemical fertilizers were scarce or redirected to military production. What kept farms running was a relentless habit of saving every organic scrap. Families dug simple compost trenches directly in garden rows and fed them with kitchen waste, ashes from cook stoves, spoiled vegetables, and even weeds. This created a slow-release nutrient line running beneath the crops. You can do the same today by trench composting your kitchen scraps in alternating sections of your garden. It enriches the soil without needing compost bins or store-bought amendments, and the results show in stronger root development and higher yields. Seed saving wasn't optional. It was the backbone of next year's harvest. People couldn't rely on seed packets from a store. They selected their strongest plants every season and saved seeds from the most resilient producers. Over time, those crops adapted to the specific conditions of each homestead. If you want to apply this technique now, start with open-pollinated varieties. At the end of the season, pick your healthiest specimen, say the tomato plant that resisted pests and produced early, and save seeds from it. Replanting those seeds year after year slowly develops a strain perfectly matched to your soil, climate, and growing style. Families use companion planting as a low-resource pest control system. Wartime farmers couldn't waste anything, including time, so they took advantage of plant relationships that naturally discouraged pests. Beans, corn, and squash were a classic trio. The corn created a climbing pole, the beans fixed nitrogen into the soil, and the squash shaded the ground to keep weeds down. People also planted strong-scented herbs like sage or thyme between rows to confuse insects. Try integrating this approach by pairing your vulnerable crops with protective companions. Plant basil with tomatoes, onions with carrots, or marigolds along the borders of your beds to suppress nematodes. Simple water-catch systems kept gardens alive during rationing. Many rural areas faced restricted water access, and metal for plumbing was diverted to the war. Farmers solved the problem with wooden gutters, barrel setups, and cloth filters that caught rainwater from rooftop runoff. A modern adaptation is just as straightforward. Set out a clean barrel beneath a roofline, stretch a mesh screen over the top, and let the next rainfall fill your irrigation supply. It reduces your reliance on municipal water and mirrors the wartime improvisation that kept small farms thriving. Root cellars extended harvest deep into winter without electricity. Before refrigeration, families dug insulated underground storage spaces that stayed cool and humid year-round. Crops like potatoes, carrots, beets and cabbage could last months this way. A simple version can be recreated using a buried metal trash can. Place sand at the bottom, lower the can into the earth with the lid level to the ground surface, and fill it with hardy vegetables packed in dry leaves. It's an inexpensive, historically accurate way to keep food longer without energy dependency. Families grew high-calorie crops in small plots to maximize production. Because land access shifted and many farms lost labor to the draft, maximizing each square foot became essential. People turned to calorie-dense crops like potatoes, parsnips, beets and beans. These provided energy, grew reliably and stored well. You can follow the same logic by dedicating part of your garden to staples rather than novelty crops. A single 4-by-8-foot bed of potatoes can yield enough to meaningfully supplement your pantry for months. Ash from firewood became a crucial soil amendment and pest deterrent. When lime was scarce, wood ash stepped in as a substitute. Farmers sprinkled it around plants to deter slugs and used it sparingly to raise soil pH. If you burn untreated wood, you can apply the same method. Just sift the ash to remove charcoal chunks and spread a thin layer around the base of your plants. It's especially useful for crops like brassicas that appreciate slightly alkaline soil. Homesteads adopted strict crop rotation to avoid exhausting the land. WWII farmers didn't have chemical rescue tools when soil became depleted, so they rotated crops methodically. Legumes followed heavy feeders, deep-rooted plants followed shallow-rooted ones, and fields rested under cover crops to rebuild fertility. Applying this today keeps your soil balanced without synthetic fertilizers. For example, after growing tomatoes, which are heavy feeders, plant peas or beans the next season, then root crops, and finish with a green manure like clover. Women and children mastered small livestock integration to turn scraps into protein. Chickens and rabbits became the backbone of wartime protein production. They thrived on garden waste and minimal feed, and their manure cycled nutrients back into the soil. A family could maintain food independence with just a small flock and a structured routine. If you keep chickens today, use their manure in compost once aged. If you raise rabbits, their manure can be applied directly to the garden without composting, just as wartime families did. These WWII techniques weren't theoretical. They were survival tools, honed under pressure and passed down through experience. If this kind of historically grounded knowledge inspires you, make sure you subscribe to the Legacy of Survival channel and share this guide with someone who appreciates real skills with real history behind them.